corn cake, some corn, some jalapeno. So you get the sweetness from the corn, a little bit of the heat from the jalapeno. And then we're going to garnish this all with the pickled vegetables. Finish a little avocado and some queso fresco, a little micro cilantro as well. And then to kind of tie it all together, we're going to make a quick chimichurri, which is...
Determining your future by selecting a major can be difficult.
One-on-one here live on Sunlink Channel 112, OSU Student Radio KXZY, live on Facebook and YouTube as well. I'm joined by my co-host Logan Mosier as always, and on Wednesdays our OSU insider Robert Allen. How are you, Robert?
I am good now that I'm here.
You made
Didn't get a ticket, speeding from the other side of the state, and a radio engagement, so... Yeah, it's good. All good when you don't get a ticket.
You probably have some kind of record from getting from Kingfisher to here, because I mean,
I don't know, but the last time I was out there, I did on the way home get a ticket. So it's been a friendly reminder from our actually this was a friendly reminder from the Oklahoma City Police Department to keep that speed down.
But you're here, and that's all that matters, and maybe your most important visit yet, because it is a big week here in Stillwater with Boise State.
Yeah, and while the theme there of my first opportunity to speak on the show was don't speed, don't give that advice to the Cowboys on offense this week. This is a week to go very fast and try and get Boise State out of sync. But, the thing is, I've talked to both of their radio voices, their play-by-play and their analyst, and they're excited. I mean, the folks at Boise, they're probably going to travel more people to a road game than they have in some time, including their conference games. And so that tells you the excitement level on their part. And I think for Oklahoma State fans, guys, I think the excitement level here is really big. In fact, we were talking about non-conference opponents. Who's the best one that we've seen at Boone Pickens Stadium since it really became Boone Pickens? Georgia was the team that opened it, and that was a good opponent. But remember, that was a year after Matt Stafford left, and they had, a quarterback that was, I think, sick that day and all that. Good football team. I don't want to diminish Oklahoma State's win that day. But I think it was the next week, a University of Houston team came in and actually beat Oklahoma State. And that may have hatched the idea in Mike Gundy's head, I think I'll hire that offensive coordinator for the Cougars named Dana Holgorsen. So I'm going to go back to that Houston game. This is probably the best team Oklahoma State's seen non-conference on their turf since Houston beat them in, was it 10? No, 9.
Yeah,
2009.
That was, we were ranked 6th, I believe, and Des Bryant returned to punt that game. They kind of, everyone thought shifted the game, and it was not a fun day.
Didn't totally shift it. And you know what? You guys remember who Houston was coached by that day? the head coach.
Was it Kevin Sumlin, or was that before he got here?
No,
there?
it was Kevin Sumlin who got his welcome back to Houston last week. And
Well.
wasn't a very good welcome back for Kevin Sumlin.
I believe it was 28-0 at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, it was ugly.
It was ugly. But speaking of that, I want to go around the Big 12. Kansas, should we slow clap or what should we do to celebrate? 46-game road skid snapped when the Jayhawks went up to a rival, I guess, Central Michigan.
I think we need to do a rendition of Rock Chalk. Yeah, I mean, hey, that was good stuff. I mean, and they didn't just win; they won 31-7 on the road at Central Michigan. So much so, and we shouldn't talk about odds. You should not bet on college football. And I'm serious about this. These are student athletes. Please don't bet on college football. But that doesn't keep Vegas from putting lines on them. They favor the Kansas Jayhawks over Rutgers this week.
First time Kansas has been favored at home against the Power 5 team since 2009, about the same time that road game losing streak started. So
you might need to reiterate that Rutgers is indeed
they're
a Power 5, but they are
They're in the Big Ten.
Yeah, they are Power 5, but they're not very good.
No, Ohio State treated them like roadkill last week. So yeah, but and Kansas is hoping they will play like roadkill in Lawrence this week. So we'll see.
Well, that is a huge win, especially after Jeff Long kind of said they were looking at the program as a whole, and it was a big win for the Jayhawks. But Texas played, an in-state team, Tulsa. They went down to Austin. Tulsa was, I believe, down 21-0 and kind of fought their way back and eventually lost 28-21. But after a loss to Maryland, Texas fans did not want to see a 28-20 win in Austin over Tulsa.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I mean, I was in the middle of working.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State's game with South Alabama was a night game. Texas played Tulsa at night. In fact, they had the same kickoff time. I did hear this. I heard that as he was coming off the field after the game, that Tom Herman was kind of raising his arms like, hey, guys, we won. Be excited to the fans, and got little or no response. He's lucky he didn't get hit by rotten tomatoes or whatever else they had available in the stands at Darrell K. Royal, because you're exactly right. I mean, 28-21 to Tulsa, that's not what Texas fans expect.
Yeah, after starting 0-1.
Well, and here's the other thing. Again, I didn't see that game. I wished I had. I wish I'd gone back and watched it on replay. But I heard Tulsa miss 2 field goals. I heard Tulsa turn the ball over early to give Texas some opportunities in the first half when they jumped out to that 21-0 lead. And if that's the case, you kind of look back at that and say, whoa, maybe the Golden Hurricanes should have won down in Austin.
That's possible. I mean,
that would have been an interesting storyline, Logan, if they weren't able to pull that off.
Well, I don't know if it would have been Jeff Long, but somebody would have been evaluating the Texas program. And you know what? Probably are at this point.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, Kansas State they ended up losing by 21, but it felt like the entire game that they were just getting dominated, and really they were. Mississippi State came into Manhattan and handled Kansas State with ease.
Yeah, and I can't say I was surprised by that, but I am disappointed. I thought, I hate to say this, but I'm going to be totally transparent here. When I sent my ballot in for the Big 12 predictions from the media before Big 12 Media Days, I picked Oklahoma first. I picked Kansas State second. Now I understand it was just, a purple mix-up that really I should have had TCU in that slot. But, yeah, I picked Kansas second, and they're not even coming close to the team that I thought they would be. They had a pretty good defense returning. We saw them late last year against Oklahoma State, and Skylar Thompson looked like Peyton Manning that day at Boone Pickens Stadium. So, again, a little surprised, but after seeing what they did the first week, and you know what, guys, Mississippi State, we were kidding around with Alexis as far as Kentucky beating Florida, and that's Dan Mullen now, the head coach of Florida. Let me tell you something. I'm sure Dan got a raise, and it's probably a little nicer over in Gainesville than Starkville, Mississippi. But Dan Mullen, when he changed jobs, left a better team at Mississippi State than he took over at Florida.
Yeah, I believe Moorhead came over from the offensive coordinator at Penn State, and
Yeah.
they've kind of struggled offensively. He looks like a really good coach. I know I watched Kansas State game. They were talking about what a player's coach Moorhead really is, but in the rest of the Big 12, you know, everyone else did pretty well. OU took care of UCLA, but unfortunately, I know it's the Sooners, but you don't want to see Rodney Anderson go down like he did. He's out for the season. I believe that's his third season-ending injury since he's been at OU. So that is unfortunate. But the big game that we want to talk about, Oklahoma State beat South Alabama 55-13. Did OSU improve Saturday night?
Oh, I think the defense did. I was impressed, and I know early on there were some tackling issues, in the first quarter. Also, I think and you see the stats there, the total yards. I mean, that's a 3-to-1 mismatch. Passing yards is more than a 3-to-1 mismatch. Rushing yards, and I think that ought to be flipped. But but still 164, not a good number for Oklahoma State. But like I said, I thought the defense, the second half, they were like a wall. I mean, South Alabama got 4 first downs. One was by penalty on a punt for leaping. Now you have to go up and down. You can't. That's to protect the defensive player, not really the offensive player. But that was it. I mean, it was just not much for South Alabama in the second half. On offense, Taylor Cornelius I thought was better. He threw the ball with more authority. He had some throws that were, the throw that he threw across the field with a defender in his face, off his back foot, but he zipped it out to Dylan Stoner. And then another throw to Stoner where he was scrambling to his right, keeping his eyes downfield, found Stoner open up, and he zipped it through the defense for about a 20-yard gain. So I thought he got better, but when you look at the offensive line, guys,
yeah.
Now in fairness, after South Alabama saw the Missouri State game, their defensive coordinator said, I'm not going to get pushed around and run like that. They'll have them run over me and run over my defense. So they played the safeties low. They brought the linebackers down in the gaps early. And they've got pretty good defensive linemen. Number 12, Tyree Turner, watching him last week before, I think we mentioned him in the show.
Yeah.
I brought him up because he's a real deal defensive tackle. So still, though, it's like Mike Gundy said, even when they know you're going to run the ball, you're Oklahoma State. You got to be able to run the football. So I thought the offensive line and the running game kind of gives me that. I can't overall say they improved. I can pick out parts of the game that improved. Obviously, the run game didn't.
Just sticking on that offensive line kind of issue, do you kind of see Boise State looking at last week's film and saying that's what we're going to do, same exact thing? Do you think you're going to see more offensive line struggles this week?
I think, Logan, I think most defensive coordinators are going to come in and say, who's the best player on that team on offense? And if you don't say number 5, you're kidding yourself. So I think most defensive coordinators are going to think, we're going to stop the run. But when you see Taylor Cornelius flipping the ball around to Tylan Wallace and Tyron Johnson, Stoner, McCleskey, to the running backs who are better receivers than they've been, it's kind of pick your poison. I think Boise will think they're good enough to play OSU straight up. I don't think they'll bring the safeties down. I think they'll play honestly. The linebackers, I think, will play honestly. But they've got a good defensive line. They've got a Polynesian nose guard that's 305 pounds. It's hard to root out of there. So, no, I think you'll get an honest, but you're going to get it from the best team you've seen so far. So this offensive line, they have to validate themselves this week against a good team, in my estimation.
Yeah, and I know I was talking, to kind of jump back to South Alabama really quickly, but I was talking with Zach at the radio station, and he mentioned that when we play them, I believe in 2023, Steve Campbell's going to have – this is going to be a different team when we play him next time. So don't just sleep and remember these last 2 games, but know that Steve Campbell's going to turn that program around.
You know what they are, and this is kind of interesting. Steve Campbell, I know this is not the South Alabama hour. It's Boise State coming up this week. Steve Campbell's never had a losing season. He's 0-2 now. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the Sun Belt and whether they can recover and keep his streak intact. He's won national championships at 2 levels. His offensive coordinator he hired from Troy, who was a teammate of his when he played at Troy, and the defensive coordinator was the nose guard when those 3 guys all played together at Troy and won a national championship when Troy was a Division II team. They'll be Troy. That's what they'll be when they come back the next time. They'll look like Troy. They'll have the kind of athletes Troy has. And, OSU knows Troy pretty well from going down there and getting beat. And they're different when you play them at your place. So the good thing is when they come back, they're coming here. But Oklahoma State needs to, until Steve Campbell leaves, no more trips to Mobile. Don't go down to play them in Mobile because you're asking for some serious trouble.
Yeah, I think he's a really good coach. Like I said, never had a losing season. He has a 751 percentage as a head coach. So they're going to be an interesting team. But before we get out of here, we do want to thank one of our sponsors, Oklahoma Air National Guard. Contact Oklahoma Air National Guard at 800-GO-TO-ANG or visit their website at goang.com/OK for more information about 100% college tuition. We will be right back with Robert Allen here on One-on-One OSU Student Radio KXZY Suddenlink Channel 112.
Determining your future by selecting a major can be difficult.
It's okay to be undecided.
Connect with the College of Arts and Sciences, where your options are endless.
Where you can uncover your passions and achieve your goals.
Express your creativity by exploring a career in the visual and performing arts.
Investigate new discoveries to make the world a better place with a career in science.
Advance knowledge, communicate progress, and contribute to a healthier planet with a career rooted in the social sciences.
Discover your career by looking at the world from different perspectives through the humanities.
Realize a better tomorrow through problem solving and mining data that can change lives.
CAS prepares you to succeed through internships, study abroad, student-guided research projects, and service activities.
With 109 majors, 52 minors, and 24 departments, the only thing missing is you. College of Arts and Sciences.
Connect.
Achieve. Succeed.
Welcome into One-on-One here on OSU Student Radio KXZY Suddenlink Channel 112. As you're seeing there, Tyron Johnson, I believe that was a 60-yard run. Robert, they finally got Tyron Johnson really involved. I kind of thought that was almost his breakout game last week. It was really impressive. He had 5 receptions for 137 yards. Like I said, that 60-yarder right there. What did you make of them getting Tyron involved last week?
I think it was something you needed to do. Here's the other thing, too. Tyron's an emotional guy. He's, I sure hope the receivers aren't watching this as a group. But, hey, most head coaches and coaches in football these days will refer to the wide receivers as the divas of the football team. They, and in many cases, they are. Now, OSU had the most anti-diva receiver the last several years in James Washington. Yeah. James doesn't act like a receiver at all. And I know I'm generalizing here, but a lot of receivers, they're flamboyant. They're going to be the guys that dress up all the time. They're going to be the guys that probably yap a lot. That's just receivers in this day and age. Tyron is one of he's one of those guys. I mean, he wears his emotions on his sleeve. If things are going good, Tyron's, if he's slumping, he's a guy that'll, he'll show it. You needed to get him untracked, and they did. Tylan Wallace, not as much in that regard. He's a little more like a James Washington, and he's starting to play like a James Washington. And then you've got Jalen McCleskey, and you've got Dylan Stoner and all those guys. Now what you've done is I think all of them have had what I would call at least one good game. In the case of Tylan, I think he's had a couple. Jalen had a couple of catches after a monster first game. But what you want to do is get all those guys on track. You even got a catch for Jelani Woods at the Cowboy back position, which I think is kind of important. And I think the other thing that Taylor Cornelius is laying down as a mantra for him at quarterback is he's an equal opportunity quarterback. He doesn't have a go-to guy. His roommate's Dylan Stoner, but he's just as apt on a pass play going through progressions. He's not going to look for anybody in particular. He's going to throw to the guy that's the wide open, the best guy to throw to. And we saw the last couple of years, and I don't know that he was ever this case, but it was assumed that Mason Rudolph had a thing for James Washington. And sure enough, they end up in Pittsburgh together. But I don't know that was the case. But if you're Taylor Cornelius, you're here for one season, and you don't want any of those receivers thinking that you favor one over the other. You want all of them loving you. And right now, Taylor has them all loving him.
Yeah. And you mentioned Taylor right there, and I want to ask you what you thought he improved on from week 1 to week 2.
I thought he threw the ball with more authority. I thought he stayed with doing really good mentally with his progressions. He had one throw he babied, and it was almost the same spot in the end zone, and it was a interception. Gundy joked about, well, my recommendation would be don't throw to that corner of the end zone. You can't do that. So, but I think Taylor understood his mistake. The other interception, while it wasn't maybe the best decision, it was a one-on-one play, and no, that wasn't a good catch. It hit the ground. You can see it on and here's the funny thing on during the game, I'm wearing pretty much the same thing the coaches are. On purpose. Nike likes for everybody to be wearing their stuff on the sidelines, and they're the provider for Oklahoma State equipment. And I've got a headset on. It's not like their headsets. It's a radio headset. But the field judge came away from that review on that interception across the field, and I'm the first guy he sees, and I went like this. I said, what? You got to be kidding me. And he comes over and he goes, Coach. And so I'm loving this because it made for a good, good interaction on the broadcast, on the radio broadcast. But he goes, Coach, we looked at it on the monitor, and it touched the ground, but it didn't look like it moved. So we think he controlled it. So
well, with the help from the ground.
Okay, what about it hitting the ground? Hey. It was an SEC crew, and like I said on the radio broadcast, I don't think that crew will ever be working a Nick Saban coached game because he would chew them up and spit them out. They were not the best officiating crew. The good thing is this week, it's a Big 12 crew because Big 12 and Mountain West share the same officials. So it'll be a good crew of officials to work this week.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into the officials because we are talking about offense, but that interception by A.J. Green that was taken away, the holding call, I didn't see it.
Okay, here's my thought on that because I got asked about that one on radio. It was barely. It was by definition, it was barely holding. If anybody else had done that, no flag, OSU first down. But because it was AJ and he was the one that picked off the pass, I kind of see where the official had to throw the flag. But it was. It was barely. But I do think he held for about that long. And by definition, I think you got to call it.
Yeah, Saturday night, Dion, who played defense here, was not.
Was he all over that?
Oh, as soon as I brought it
Fellow
up,
defensive back.
he lost his mind.
Yeah, fellow defensive back.
Yeah, and like this will be the last thing we talk, and it's not really the official's fault, but Kenneth Edison Magruder on the helmet where he's ejected, and luckily it came in the first half, so he can play.
Both players lowered their helmet.
Yeah.
Right?
But he was going to hit him in the chest, and then the guy lowered his helmet, the running back did, and it's not the ref's fault because, I mean, that's the rule, but how frustrating, did you see any frustration on the sideline from, I mean, it's ridiculous to me.
No, and I'll tell you, now, Jim Knowles is coming around to the ways of Mike Gundy, but Mike Gundy is steadfast. Now, yeah, well, he'll yell at the officials some, and he did. If you want to know the thing that bothered him the most, there were 2 plays in the first half where the official, the center judge, came and held the snap up and allowed South Alabama to sub. OSU had not subbed on offense, so they're not supposed to let South Alabama, have time to substitute. Oh man, he was. But for the most part, Mike Gundy preaches body language and attitude on the sidelines. If you'll notice, and this is really fun to see, when the other team does something good. Now, obviously, these first 2 games, the games weren't close. But watch Saturday. If Boise State jumps out to a 14-0 lead and, gets a couple of big plays, watch the OSU sideline. Because most times you'd see a team go, oh, man, God, or, might kick the ground or something. You just don't see that. Because, and I've had even people I know from the other side say, you know what's frustrating? You guys never act like you're mad about anything. When you're down, you don't act like you're beaten. And, the first thing the other team looks over, they want to see you dejected. And OSU's really big on this. So for that, you don't get that much from the kids. Now, Kenneth Edison Magruder was upset, and you could tell he kind of stood there for a second before, I think it was Rod Johnson that, is responsible, and Rod kind of grabs his arm and said, come on, we got to go. But, I mean, he kind of stood there, and he was looking at the Jumbotron. And I think he maybe thought they were going to show it again. But Mike Gundy's pretty good about this, too, in that he says, look, it's a rule that they're going to emphasize, and they are. They're trying to make the game safer. Now, what I liked was I've seen a couple of plays this season where a running back has been called for targeting when he lowers his helmet. You can call it on the offensive player. That's in the official's right. The other thing was, you guys got to see this. I mean, look it up on YouTube. The punter last week.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Did you see it?
Yes.
I mean,
he just spears that guy.
Yeah, like blatant, like he's Dick Butkus or something from the old days. I'm going to tear his head off.
Yeah.
It's the punter. My gosh. Gets called for targeting. Oh, that's my all-timer for this year already.
He was flying down the field.
Oh, yeah, and crown of the helmet, launches. There's a whole list of things that officials go through in their head. Did he launch? Forward thrust? Did he use the crown of the helmet? All those. This guy did it all in one.
He checked all the boxes.
He checked you're right. He checked every box for targeting.
Yeah.
Pretty remarkable.
And he's the punter. Hey, when he comes back, because he's going to, I don't know, maybe if it was in the first half, he'll be back this week. They need to play him on defense. Teach him how to tackle correctly, but play him on. He's an aggressive young man.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
Yeah, before we jump out of here and have to talk about defense, I want to ask you about Drew Brown. He's kind of familiar with this Boise State team. I don't think they played him with Hawaii last year, but 2 years ago they played.
2 years ago they played him, yeah.
So, I mean, if Cornelius struggles, what are the chances we see Drew Brown?
None.
None?
None. The struggle would be you'd have to carry him off. He'd have to be struggling physically. No, I know a lot of people. I'm gonna do my best here to set Oklahoma State fans straight. When Drew Brown, everybody loves the shiny new toy, and unfortunately for Taylor Cornelius, he wasn't new, except he was new to starting. He was a backup, and he was a former walk-on, and so he kind of has some stigmas there against him. But if you watched him, I think they said he's thrown for more yards in his first 2 starts than any OSU quarterback ever. yeah, that's pretty good. His team has won. Yes, he's made a few mistakes, but man, he's done a lot of good things. And we haven't really seen him launch the run game that he's capable of, but when he does, that's going to be another whole new dimension to the offense. Okay, a lot of people, when Drew Brown announced he was coming, because of his size, because he wears the number 6, a lot of people, he's Baker Mayfield. Well, no, go back and look at his record at Hawaii, people. He did a good job. He threw for a lot of yards. He's a good kid. But if he were Baker Mayfield, Hawaii would have been winning the Mountain West. I'm not saying winning a national championship or him winning a Heisman, but if he was anywhere close to Baker Mayfield, Hawaii would have at least won a division of the Mountain West. And, you know, he had a losing record as a starter, and that's not all his fault. Hawaii didn't, you know, although the guy quarterback in Hawaii now, they're unbeaten, and he's like leading the nation in total offense. So, again, Drew Brown's good, but he's not. Put it this way, OSU's playing the right quarterback.
There you go.
That's easy. That's a simple way.
Put it to rest.
Number one offense in the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with what OSU's doing. Now, Taylor Cornelius will, if he were sitting here right now, he would be going, yeah, but I've thrown 3 interceptions. That's just the way he is. He's a Texas panhandle kid, and his parents have taught him be accountable, and if you make mistakes, you got to correct them. So right now, I hate it because, you know, after a game when you interview him, it's almost like, hey, man, you won the game. Yeah. He hasn't acted like he's won a game yet. He's been down about throwing interceptions. So, yeah, I want to see him come out this week. I'd like to see OSU win, and I'd like to see him not have any interceptions so he'll smile when it's over.
Well, it is a big game. We do have to get out of here to take a quick break, but we will be back to talk about defense and that Boise State offense. But we do want to thank another one of our sponsors, OSU Communications. You can count on OSU Communications for all of your game day tips. They know all things game day from the walk to tailgating. And also, before we want to get out of here, we do want to show a video from Mitch Mackay of the tailgating Saturday in Stillwater. We'll be right back with One-on-One on OSU Student Radio, KXZY, Suddenlink Channel 112.
In my mind, I was never going to walk right again. Before we were through, we had walked 23 steps. And that was my first steps of freedom. This patient is saying thank you.
Sunlink Channel 112, live on Facebook and YouTube as well. We are live from Studio 318 on the beautiful campus of Oklahoma State University. Thank you to Mitch McKay for that tailgating footage. It does not get much better than game day here in Stillwater, but it is the biggest game day of the year, Robert, and the Boise State Broncos are coming from the Mountain West. They are not considered a Power 5 team, but they are probably the best group of 5, if not one of the best.
You know, and again, I'm fresh off having some conversations with their radio guys, and then also heard Brian Harsin. I was part of a teleconference with him, their head coach, earlier this week. Hey, if you slap group of 5 on them, do it at your own risk.
Yeah.
Okay? Their bowl game last year, and I know Oregon's not quite what they were when they were going great guns with Mariota and Chip Kelly and all that crew, but they took Oregon to the woodshed in the Vegas Bowl last year. They've beaten a lot of Power 5 teams. Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of people criticize Oklahoma State's schedule this year because the popular thing to say is, well, Oklahoma State isn't playing any Power 5 non-conference opponents. Okay, really?
Yeah.
Boise State qualifies because if you put Boise State right now in the Big 12, minimum, the lowest I would pick them would be 5th, and I think they're better than that. I think they're probably 3rd or 4th. I couldn't pick them to beat Oklahoma, although they have done that in the past. Okay, couldn't pick them to beat Oklahoma this year. Probably would not pick them to beat TCU or West Virginia. And right now, I'm hoping that after Saturday, I couldn't say they would beat Oklahoma State. And if that's the case, that's why I kind of got them in 5th. But, I mean, we'll see. I mean, they're a good football program. They've beaten a lot of so-called Power 5 teams over the years. And so much so, they're scheduling more and more in their non-conference in the future because they're looking to get as much respect as they can.
For sure. I think they're top 5 in wins since 2010 or something like that. I saw a stat like that earlier today.
I've got their notes here. Yeah, I mean, what they've done. Well, I mean,
always does.
All-time winning percentage, they're 3rd.
Yep.
Of all teams, they're 3rd. Can you name the 2 ahead of them?
Notre Dame and Michigan.
There you go. You're good.
Good job, Reed.
Conference winning percentage since 2000, they're number 1. Overall winning percentage since 2000, they're number 1. You want to hear the 2 teams right behind them that form the top 3?
OU and Ohio State.
Boy, you're automatic. I like that. Home winning percentage since 2000, they're number 1. Highest scoring team since 2000. See, I thought Oklahoma State would be in there somewhere, but not. But no, I mean, here I love this. Wins by West Coast teams since 2000. You don't even need to put that, guys, because your overall winning percentage since 2000, you're number 1. So I'm going to assume you're the best on the West too. So yeah, but yeah, they're pretty good. It's just in. The Broncos can play, and they don't even need to play on blue turf. They're okay on green turf too.
Yeah.
They didn't drop off much when Chris Peterson left for Washington. They've kind of picked right back up, hired a Boise State guy that's now the head coach. What does Oklahoma State need to do defensively? Because they're both, Boise State and Oklahoma State both have top 25 offenses, defenses coming into this. Boise State's 9th overall, or 24th overall, and we're 9th overall on defense. But this defense last week, they played fast, and the 4-2-5 looks great. They happen to play the 4-2-5 as well. Going back to the offense really quickly, go ahead.
I was going to say, their defense, talking about Boise's, they have that like star linebacker. And they call it a strong side linebacker / nickel. But that's what the star linebacker was for OSU under Tim Beckman, Bill Young, and Glenn Spencer. I think they call the defensive end that's an eagle end, they call him a stud, and Oklahoma State called him a falcon. That was the code term. They play the same position. They have a cheetah package, which was the speed package on defense under Glenn Spencer. They remember where the defensive line doesn't get down in a stance, everybody's 2-point, and OSU called it walk around after the homecoming walk around. They have the same thing. They call it stand around. Their defense is very similar to what Oklahoma State played the last 7-8 years. And what OSU's doing now is really more true 4-2-5 and a little bit different. But, you mentioned fast. The defense playing fast, they need to play really fast on Saturday.
Yeah, Calvin Bundage, they had 11 guys with 3 or more tackles. They had 3 sacks. They created one turnover, but almost 2 that, one went for a pick 6. But Calvin,
there was a fumble, too, in the first half. The officials didn't even see.
They weren't great. Calvin Bundage had 7 tackles. So with this defense, the first 2 games, they haven't allowed a lot of points. Peyton Huslig got kind of loose for Missouri State a couple times. What does this defense have to do as a whole to slow them down, not just in the fourth quarter, but all 4 quarters?
Tackle well, and if they'll tackle well, I think they'll be okay against the run game. I think the real challenge against Boise State's offense will be Boise's passing game. Brett Rippon is a lot like what Oklahoma State had last year, Mason Rudolph. Guy that's really comfortable because he started for 3 years. Now, he lost his top receivers from a year ago, but I've been impressed. They replenish quickly. Their receivers are pretty good. Now, one of the things they've been doing in the first 2 games against Troy and UConn, they've played a lot of 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, 1 back, 2 tight ends. And I think they've done it mainly for blocking. I think you'll see them get away from that. I think they're going to have at least 3 and sometimes 4 wideouts on Saturday because they've trained these guys, they've worked them. The kid that impresses me the most is a guy named John Hightower that was a JUCO transfer from Hines Community College in Mississippi. Their guys were telling me at Hines he only caught 13 passes last year for 200-some-odd yards and 4 touchdowns. I'm going to guess either the Hines coaches couldn't figure out what they had with him, or they're just a run-dominant team, which some teams in the South are, and that's all they're going to do. But he's come in, he's lit it up. Plus, they've got Octavius Evans, who they felt was going to be their best receiver. He hasn't played yet, but he's scheduled to make his debut here in Stillwater on Saturday. So, all those things said, I think you're going to see a Boise team that will throw the ball a lot with Rippon and should. And for Oklahoma State, for them to successfully defend the passing game, the front has to get pressure, and the secondary's got to hold up. And, you guys have been around. How often have we seen – now, again, this isn't fair to Jim Knowles. He's new. It's not fair necessarily to the guys on this defense because some of them are new and some of them are playing in a new defense. But how many times have we seen in other games one half or the other not hold up and OSU get thrown on for 300-400 yards and lose a game, even when the offense is cranking out points? So that's what I want to see. I want to see Rippon on his butt some. I want to see him pressured. And then you need to see the Cowboys secondary cover. I think they got a chance. I like what I've seen of this defense so far, but they still have midterms in college, don't they?
Yeah.
That's still around. It's not a midterm. What is it? It's a tri-term test. I don't know what you want to. This is a big test. We're going to find out how good this new defense is in a big way on Saturday.
It's going to be interesting. Brett Rippon's passed for 667 yards last week, almost 1,300 so far this year. I want to go back to that Troy game because although they beat Troy 56-20, I believe, the time of possession was in Troy's favor. The total yards were very close. The only discrepancy you really saw in the stats was turnovers. And they created a couple last week, I believe. What are they going to do? Because they've seen Taylor Cornelius turn the ball over. They have.
Oh, they're going to go after it. And their secondary is what I think is the best part of their defense. And they're guys that go after the ball, both in the passing game, and then they're also the guys that come in late. They like to say they hunt by pack. That's kind of their term. All that's saying is they like to get a lot of guys around the football when they make plays on defense. And we all know the first couple of guys are going to secure the runner. but probably hold him up a little bit and let those last guys punch at the ball and see if they can't get a turnover. The good thing is Justice Hill's had his lesson. Chuba Hubbard had his lesson in fall camp. It didn't get out, but he had a scrimmage where he fumbled a couple of times. And Mike Gundy's not going to let that go on. I mean, you know, remember when Justice in his game down at Baylor had those 2 key fumbles?
Mm-hmm.
Can you count a fumble? I think he has fumbled one since, but that's it. I mean, so I think they'll be okay in that regard, but Taylor's going to have to shore up the passing game, not make bad throws, not make bad decisions, not baby the ball into a receiver, because these guys will take advantage of it. And I think they were both fumbles, not interceptions. They've taken 2 turnovers to the house.
Yeah.
So they'll score.
Yeah, I believe they.
One of their guys in the secondary is a punt returner deluxe.
Is that Tyler Horton?
Yeah, he can
Yeah,
return kicks.
He's kind of short, but he had a couple fumble recoveries. Their defense, and correct me if this is wrong, but they returned 10 out of 11 starters besides Leighton Vander Esch, who got drafted in the first round.
The Dallas Cowboys, exactly.
And they've got a defense coordinator who played linebacker at Boise State, and he's
Andy Avalos.
Yeah, and he's a good. I mean, they're 24th ranked defense overall.
One of his teammates is the analyst on the radio, and he said, "Man, when Andy was playing, he was that crazy guy you didn't want to go up to on game day because he was all intense and you know, I mean." So that's what they got going for him. I mean, and they, you know, while we're on that experience thing, that experience train, they returned 9 of 11 starters on offense, and the 2 they didn't return are receivers. And I just said in the last segment, it looks like they've replenished that position. So, yeah, this is the great thing is, if you're an Oklahoma State player or an Oklahoma State fan, you know what? We're going to know about our team come Saturday. Now, here's a bad thing. Can I tell you what I told my wife the other night? We're sitting there. My wife turns to me and she goes, "What do you think about the game?" I said, "I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be great." But either way, Saturday, one way or the other, our fans are going to go off the deep end. And she goes, "What do you mean?" So if Oklahoma State beats Boise, then it's going to be, we're going to win the Big 12. We may be in the college football playoff. I mean, we're great. Well, that may not necessarily be the case. There's a few more good games to play before the end of this season. And then if they lose to Boise, we suck again. You know, I mean, and the truth of that is, that's not the truth.
Yeah.
You know, you could lose to Boise and win all the games or all but maybe one of the games left.
Yeah.
You know, you still be a good team. What this is it's a game between 2 really good ranked teams. It should be enjoyed, savored like a good wine.
Well, we're going to. It'll be, and we're
But
going to.
not in the stands, out at the tailgate.
You can enjoy beer. You can't
Beer,
enjoy
not
wine.
wine, yeah.
Maybe you have to sneak that
Might
into
be
the
coming.
stadium.
Yeah. Don't say that. Wow, we're going to get in trouble.
We're going to break down
We
everything.
are on campus.
We're going to break down everything about Boise State coming up in this last segment, but we do want to thank a couple of our sponsors, The Table. Stop by The Table on Thursdays at 8 p.m. to join their Bible study. Shoot Rachel an email at rachel@thetableosu.com for more information. And Campbell Property Management. If you are looking for luxury living in Stillwater, please contact Campbell Property Management at 405-372-9225 or visit their website at campbellmgmt.com for more information. We will be right back here with One-on-One on OSU Student Radio KXZY Suddenlink Channel 112.
Determining your future by selecting a major can be difficult.
It's okay to be undecided.
Connect with the College of Arts and Sciences, where your options are endless.
Where you can uncover your passions and achieve your goals.
Express your creativity by exploring a career in the visual and performing arts.
Investigate new discoveries to make the world a better place with a career in science.
Advance knowledge, communicate progress, and contribute to a healthier planet with a career rooted in the social sciences.
Discover your career by looking at the world from different perspectives through the humanities.
Realize a better tomorrow through problem solving and mining data that can change lives.
CAS prepares you to succeed through internships, study abroad, student-guided research projects, and service activities.
With 109 majors, 52 minors, and 24 departments, the only thing missing is you. College of Arts and Sciences.
Connect.
Achieve. Succeed.
Welcome back to One on One on OSU Student Radio, KXZY, Sunlink Channel 112. We're live from Studio 318 and live on Facebook and YouTube as well. We're joined by Robert Allen, the OSU Insider. Look at that blue field, Robert.
Wow. You know, and I'm looking forward to it. I have actually, one of the states I've never been to is Idaho. Been to most of them, but haven't been to Idaho in here in a couple of years. Go up there and play on the blue turf at Albertson Stadium, and yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it.
So the home and home, we go to Boise in 2 years, not next year.
No. Next year, OSU actually opens next year in Corvallis, Oregon.
Going out to the West Coast.
The Oregon State Beavers. Yeah.
They're getting a little better. Of course, they couldn't have gotten much worse. So they're getting a little bit better.
A little bit, but I don't think there'll be a gigantic improvement by next year. You know, it's like Mike Gundy said earlier this week too. Yes, you know what? We didn't know what they would have at Boise when you signed this contract. And he goes, they end up with a guy like we had last year in Mason Rudolph, that's 3-year starter. Okay, we go back. I think it's 3 years. Now OSU will go back, and it'll be like, we'll probably catch the next guy that's become a 2 or 3 year starter. And so Gundy was lamenting that he didn't time that Boise State series as well as he'd like.
No, but like I said earlier, 2 top 5 offenses, 2 top 25 defenses. We're ranked 9th in total defense, but the first 2 opponents for both programs haven't been the competition that they're going to see this week in Boone Pickens. Logan, I want to ask you, everyone puts, and this is for you as well, Robert, everyone has keys to the game. Mm-hmm. But what is your key, one key for the defense and one key for the offense, and not just stop keeping them scoring points and you get score more points the other team? Give me a little more than that.
You took away my easy answer. No.
I saw it coming.
For the defense, my key is going to be the secondary, because Robert kind of alluded to that in the last segment. Like we see it too often in one half. Either the front 7 aren't up to par, or the secondary doesn't do their isn't up to snuff. And for me, the secondary has to stay focused in this game. They might even have to create a turnover or something like that. But Boise State's quarterback can throw the ball. Like Robert was just saying, he's a lot like Mason Rudolph. This is his 4th year starting. He's going to be trouble. And for the offense, I think you got to get the running game going. I mean, we've talked about a number of times how awesome all of these running backs are for us. And getting those guys unleashed is going to be a big key to winning this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And for you, Robert?
Yeah, for me, I just because he took the secondary on defense, I'll take the front. You got to get pressure on Rippon. If he's able to stand back there, I mean, he's too good. I mean, he's got an uncle that was a Super Bowl MVP. He's got a cousin that's the best quarterback in lingerie football. You don't know that?
That's a fun fact. I did not know
that until somebody showed me that the other day. I'm like, really? Yeah, Mark Rippon. See, he's the nephew of Mark Rippon. And his cousin, Mark's daughter, is supposedly one of the best. I mean,
that was not in my research, Robert.
Yeah, what? It wasn't in mine until somebody showed me yesterday. And by the way, I shared that tidbit with my wife last night without the Google visual aid.
Oh.
Anyway, okay, that's get pressure on Rippon. Put him on his can a few times. Make him know that, you know what? If I stand here long enough and don't get the ball out of my hands, I'm going to be wearing a Jordan Brailford necklace, and it's not going to feel good. On the offensive side, pretty simple, and you may be mad. Run the football.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If the running game struggles like it did against South Alabama, which I don't think it will, but if you become one-dimensional against a good defenses, no matter how good you are, can shut down one-dimensional. One of my favorite terms in football is run-pass conflict, which you want to put a defense in run-pass conflict. Oh my gosh, they're running. Oh my gosh, they're passing. Oh God, we can't stop any of it. That's where you want to put Boise in that position. And I'm pretty convinced OSU will be able to throw the football. But after last week, I've got some concerns. Even with that great group of running backs, if they got to dodge people behind the line of scrimmage Saturday, that won't be a good thing at all.
They can't be pushed back like they were against South Alabama.
Cannot.
So they've got to be better. The offensive line is key for that balanced attack. But I'm going to go with Taylor Cornelius because he played better last week, but he still missed a couple throws here and there. He can't make those mistakes because you don't throw an interception and get away with it from Boise State. He's just not going to get away with it. So he has to limit those. He was better, but he has to be even better than last week. But that Boise State secondary, as we said, 10 out of 11 starters coming back. I don't even want to say one of their names of their defense, but DeAndre Pierce, he has 14 tackles in the first. You want to try with
Kikoa Nawahini?
Thank you.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You got it. He has 12 tackles. Tyler Horton has 8 tackles, 2 fumble recoveries as a defensive back.
Better beware of Sonatani Louie. Sonatani Louie is that nose tackle that's 6'1", 305 pounds, and full of frivolity. I mean, but no. And see, that's something that Oklahoma State and Boise State have in common as well. The last several years, Mike Gundy and his staff have done a good job of recruiting some Polynesian players, and they found that, hey, those guys like Stillwater, and they're really good football players. Why not? Boise's been doing it for a long time. A lot of the West Coast schools are more prevalent with that, but Oklahoma State's got, I'm real excited about a young freshman, probably won't play this year, that's a defensive tackle, Samuela Tuihalamaka, but we all know about Sione Fine-Fuaki, so I'm just throwing it out there now. I'm just showing off. Yeah.
Well, one guy that we missed when we talked about the Cowboy defense was Malcolm Rodriguez. He only had 4 tackles last week, but it really felt to me watching the game, he was just everywhere. How big does he have to step up in that secondary this week?
Oh, I think he'll be huge, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you saw a big improvement with him from his first start, which was he played last year, but only on special teams. So that was really his first experience on defense, and he got faked out by the H-back dodging inside on the touchdown pass, but he learned his lessons well, so well that you talked about him being everywhere. I talked to him earlier this week about the fact that he's using his quarterback experience in high school to lay off the receiver just enough to try and get the quarterback to go ahead and throw it, because he's timing himself for one of two things. He's either going to hit that receiver when the ball gets there and just knock the way out of him, or if he feels he can get it, he's going to run through the football and try and get a pick. You will see that happen here before long, hopefully against Boise State. He can time it where he'll run through, and because he's had a habit in spring ball and in fall camp of pick sixes, and it'd be nice to see him get his first real one in a game against Boise. That'd be pretty good.
Well, it's going to be a huge game, and we certainly hope that the Cowboys can pull one out. But thank you so much, Robert, for coming in. For Logan and I, thank you guys for watching. We will be back live on at 2:30 on Friday as well. So thank you for watching. This has been One-on-One on OSU Student Radio, KXZY, Suddenlink, Channel 112.
In my mind, I was never going to walk right again. Before we were through, we had walked 23 steps. And that was my first steps of freedom. This patient is saying thank you.